I would like to welcome you to part 2 of CK-12, Digital Resources for Educators. This is part 2, but no worries. If you are just joining us, you will get up to speed very quickly. So I would like to introduce our presenters today. And we are very lucky to have not one, not two, but we have 3 presenters that are joining us. And I would like to start with our lead presenter. And I'd like you to focus in on the beautiful lady right here in the middle with the blue hijab on. And this is Netta Anasari, and she is the coordinator of technology projects for the Outreach Technical Assistance Network in California. And we are lucky, we have done some collaboration in the past. Train PD has done collaboration with OTAN. So I am lucky to have Netta here. And let me take a step back to and introduce myself. And I'm Anne Marie Molinari Sanders, and I'm a professional development specialist with Train PD at TCAL. Continuing on with our presenters, our next presenter is Debbie Jensen, and she is a subject matter expert for OTAN. Previous to her work with OTAN, she has 33 years of experience in adult education. And believe it or not, Debbie and I, when I was in California, worked on a project together many years ago. So I'm so excited that she is with us today. And previous to being with OTAN, she worked for Baldwin Park Adult and Community Education in California. So she has a lot of experience in adult education. And also joining us on the CK-12 side is Lindsay Kincaid, and she's a creative development manager for CK-12 and also a strong background in education and was a 10 years in K through 12 at the secondary level. And we all know that many of our students, barely finish high school and then they jump over to adult ed. So we're glad to have Lindsay here. So at this time, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna let everyone say hi really quickly and we're gonna get started, and here we go.
Hi, everyone. This is Netta Anasari. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm going to pass it to Debbie to introduce herself.
Sorry, everybody. This is Debbie Jensen. I'm excited to be here too and share a passion that we have together working with CK-12.
And I'm Lindsay. I'm going to be your CK-12 specialist for today. I've been with CK-12 Foundation for 6 years, so I'm hoping that any questions you throw my way, I'm able to demo and answer live for you.
All right, folks, let's get this party started. We're so excited to be here. This is part 2 of our CK-12 webinar for Texas, for our Texas friends. Like Anne-Marie said, we have worked together in the past, and we're so excited to collaborate with our sister states on this effort of open educational resources, bringing you digital resources for educators using CK-12. So part 1, we kind of did an overview and got to know a little bit of CK-12, and we're going to do a little bit of that with the first couple of slides. And then we want to bring it into your classroom. So what does that mean? So we want to really kind of customize and kind of teach you how to grab those books and use the books. Again, I'm your presenter, Netta Anasari, but we thought it's extremely valuable to hear from an adult educator that has used CK-12, and that's Debbie Jensen. And then our friends at CK-12 are phenomenal, and they have given us the wonderful queen that she is, Lindsay Kincaid, to help us out today as well. I do want to remind everybody that CK-12 is 100% free. This is a free resource. It's an open educational resource, and we're so lucky to have this resource at our fingertips. And kind of have a little request for you. Open your minds, right? This is, beyond of what we're going to kind of show you today. There's so much more that can happen. The CK-12 resources and tools are super powerful. So beyond the books that we might be showing you today, that start thinking bring those creative juices, because really it's not limited. You can think about creating your own book. Keep that in mind as we go along. So it's a request, maybe it's a challenge, but keep those minds open for us as we present for you today. Okay, so if you were with us last Friday, April 2nd, we gave you an overview of the CK-12 and Adult Education Partnership. So I gave the story that I attended a Go Open Summit. There's a Go Open movement that we all know. And it's basically focused on open educational resources, increasing open educational resources. And CK-12 was there giving a presentation. And I thought, man, I would have loved to enhance this in my adult education classroom. I used it when I was teaching, but now how do I spread the word now that I'm with an organization that's training adult educators throughout the state of California. So what do I do here? How can I expand this? And I went up to the presenter at the time and I talked to him for a little bit, and then we kept contact. We presented together. I became a certified educator. And a few years later, with Lindsay's help in the CK-12 family, we were able to launch the Adult Ed page. So we always love to have a home, right? We always feel, sometimes Adult Ed feels maybe not so included in things of K-12. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll tell the truth. K-12, maybe community college, sometimes we may feel like we're not necessarily included in everything. So they made us included. They included us. CK-12 included us on their page, and they made sure we had a home, and it's called ck12.org/adulted, and we're so excited for that. All right, so let's talk about the objectives today. We're going to do a couple of slides on the review, and then we're going to dive right into the creation of the books. And so we're going to do a live view of a Flexbook 2.0 lesson. We're going to do a live customization. We're going to review the customizing of a resource, and we're going to give you a couple of contact information. And of course, Anne-Marie has all of our contact information, so she will be sharing that with you guys as well. So we talked about this last week. The adult education page, if you have the adult education page, ck12.org/adulted open at this time, you'll start seeing that there is a section for adult basic education. There's a section for adult secondary education diploma and adult secondary education equivalency. And I know at Texas, we are focusing in on equivalency, right? But let's talk about the ABE resources for now. We found community contributed resources that have been vetted by an adult basic education teacher by the name of Debbie Jensen, by the way. So there are educators throughout the nation that have been focusing in on some of these resources. So ABE is a component that we were able to find, vet, and make sure they're quality and they're available at your fingertips. These are ready-made and ready to go. So, and then we'll kind of dive into that a little bit deeper. There's so much more available to you on the CK-12 site, so you can find definitely anything that you're looking for, but this is kind of a start, right? Here are some of the basics that you'll find for adult basic education. Next, let's talk about high school equivalency. So you'll see two graphics here. The first, the left side is the high school diploma, and the right side is the secondary ed equivalency. And these are books that you can see: foundational math, algebra basics, geometry, data and stats. So you can see these are books to help your students. Science for high school equivalency, or a science companion. I don't know about you, but I remember when I was teaching high school equivalency, I always used to find it very difficult to find additional resources to help my students in science, to help pass their science exam. And I found them on CK-12. And so this is just a really good start, but doesn't mean that it's limited, right? So, in California, we have high school diploma options. And so that's what you see on the left-hand side, some of the high school diploma subject areas. But on the equivalency side, these are specifically geared to help assist your students in their equivalency efforts. That doesn't mean that you can't use any of the resources that are in the diploma side if you find them helpful for your students. Remember, I asked you to kind of keep an open mind and think creatively, right? So there's no limits on what you can use. I'm going to hand it over to Lindsay, because I know you want to hear from her, who's going to tell you a little bit, take you live and look at a Flexbook 2.0. Lindsay?
Awesome. Thank you. We ended last Friday's session with just a really quick look at a CK-12 lesson, and I showed you kind of how to explore our site and what a Plix is and what a simulation is. So I'm going to do a really quick review of that, and then I want to show you a few more features in a lesson, for those of you who were here last week to build on your knowledge, and for those of you who are new, just to get comfortable with our lessons before we start talking about customization or creating things from scratch and assignments, all of that good stuff. So I am sharing my screen here. Again, CK-12, 100% free, no advertisements, no paywall, no credit card, nothing. We've been around since 2007. We've always been free. We always will be free. But do set up an account if you haven't already set up an account. And you would select that you're a teacher. And so here I am in my teacher view. And the books that Netta was talking about under adult education, a couple different ways to find them. You can go directly to ck12.org/adult education, or you can also select the area you're interested in here, and you'll be taken to our adult education page that has all of those pretty books that we were talking about. I'm going to just talk you through a lesson here. So I pre-selected a lesson from our Physics for High School diploma book. And this is lesson 18.3 that's on Earth as a magnet. And I thought it was a pretty typical lesson that you're going to find in these books. So let me just talk you through what you're seeing here. So this is one page in what we call our Flexbook 2.0 platform. The Flexbook 2.0 platform looks like this, where you're going to see our friend Flexi in the bottom corner. He is a chat bot essentially, but the students and the teachers can talk to Flexi. He's going to help them navigate, remind them of things that they need to do, help answer questions on the content. So that's who that is down there in the corner. And then our book, again, you're able to view the table of contents at any time over here on the left. And you can see our chapters and then all of the lessons within a chapter. Like I said, I'm down here in magnetism on Earth as a magnet. So I can always navigate through my table of contents over here. And then you'll see that there's an assign button up here that we'll talk about for those of you wanting to assign through a Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology. Or if you don't use either of those or any of those learning management systems, we also have a CK-12 class available to you. For a lot of our lessons, you're going to see this view practice down at the bottom. For most of the math and science books that were created based on CK-12 content, they're going to have attached adaptive practice that is great. It's a great way to ask your learners to do some reading and exploring of a lesson, and then come in here and try to get 10 questions correct. It's always set up to try to get 10 questions correct. That's just kind of how our game works with adaptive practice. And as they answer questions, it's going to tell them whether they are correct. And, I'm 1 for 10 now, keep going, awesome. Or if I miss it, I can get hints from our friend Flexi. I can try again, and eventually it's going to give me a skill level here. So since I've answered 2 questions correct, but I kind of missed one, and I'm starting off with some of the easier questions, I'm in this exploring skill level that I will need to keep going and answering more questions and seeing how I progress. So now I'm up to proficient. But you can see my progress bar moving along here. I love adaptive practice because it's something that can be done at any time. I can start and stop it, do some while I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment, do some before dinner, after dinner, and students will be able to see a report on their progress that looks kind of like this, that I'm 30% of the way to my goal for 3 out of 10. And then you can see that I answered 1 easy, couple medium questions, haven't gotten to the hard questions yet, time spent. So that's going to be a theme of today's presentation, is that the student, the learner is able to see a lot of information and reports. And then if you as a teacher assign this to your students, you'll be able to see those same type of reports. So that's what you're seeing down here in the corner, this view practice. This can also be substituted for a quiz that you've either curated from our bank of questions or you've created from scratch.
Hey, Lindsay.
Yes.
So can you tell our audience who who's creating these lessons?
Sure. So our books, like I said, we've been around since 2007, and most of our books on the math and science subjects were donated to us by college professors with PhDs. And then over the past, 13, 14 years, they've been continually vetted by domain experts, content specialists who make sure the book's updated and accurate. And occasionally, if there's a lingering typo, by now we've caught most all of those things. Anytime we're notified something by the users, we're able to change it instantaneously. But in our you're about to talk in our books, you can get more information about the authors and about when it was created, here. And since Debbie has been the hand that's been curating these resources, she's one of the authors, as well as the CK-12 Foundation, who is responsible for this book.
And do you find the students are using them in an individual, in a full class, or as an individual student? Are they assigned as homework, or is it more supplemental activities?
All of the above. We are used around the world, and everybody has a different use case, right? I'd say a common one is, again, to help educators who need a textbook replacement, right? We're going digital. Maybe you have access to some really old textbooks that are 12, 15 years old, and you want some updated resources. You might choose one of our books, like a physics for high school diploma book. And you may jump around and you may use some of the lessons of, 18.3, and then you like 19.5. But these individual lessons can all be assigned to your students. And what's being assigned is this lesson. And then the score that would be passed back to your learning management system would be how they did on this practice, or the quiz if you subbed it out for a quiz. But what's especially cool about our Flexbook 2.0 environment is that we've embedded and then we've brought all of our resources together into a lesson. So you're going to see this question that it opens up with, and then you're going to see videos and even interactives embedded right here in the lesson. So here is a video that we've either curated or created ourselves. And then this is going to be a Plix interactive. I'm going to go ahead and launch this one just to show you. We have about 1,200 Plix, that stands for Play, Learn, Interact, Explore. And these are, I would say, 5 to 10 minute activities where you are being asked to move a red point. You can see that my compass is moving. These are all different as far as the interactivity that's happening over here on the right. But usually you'll have 5 to 7 questions that follow that interaction. And again, students are using this as a practice tool to learn more. So if they miss it, they can also see a correct answer. They can learn more right here on the page. Lots of things going on. But to Netta, your question, we have integrated all of our best Earth as a Magnet resources in this lesson, but you can assign these things separately too. So say you're lucky and you have access to a great book or foundational resource, but you're just looking for some supplemental content to assign to your students or to share with your students. And that's great. A great place to find some of those related resources is in your toolbar. I clicked on it pretty fast. So here it is, these 9 squares up here. If you click on that, under related content, our team has gone through all of the things available on CK-12, which are hundreds, for any given concept, we have 20 videos and 20 Plix and all kinds of things. But they've really hand curated the best that go with this lesson. So we have study guides, which I know Debbie was raving about last week. And so she'll probably talk to you more about why she likes the study guides. But we have real world applications that, extend this knowledge and of the Earth as a magnet. We've got additional videos. We have a simulation, and you can click on any of these and you can assign these as well. So you can either use our lesson, our lesson all together, everything embedded, or you can choose individual pieces of it to share or assign with your students. An important thing to know about CK-12 is we're talking about this idea of assigning. But all of our resources have a unique URL that if you're just looking for a discussion starter for your classes and you want to have everybody just view something where you don't need any grade pass back, you can copy this link and put it into your stream, your email, your website, however you're getting content out to everybody. Let me go back to a book page here. So there's a lot of tools that I'm going to show you when we start talking about customizing. And again, we'll touch on assigning. So that's your action tools here. But remember that this is a digital resource and your students can still highlight and take notes if they would like. All of that would be stored in their account over here. You also have the ability to translate into other languages, which I think is really important for everybody. But as you have students who you're working with who are speaking a language you're not familiar with, perhaps, Mongolian, we are using Google Translate to change our menu options and the text so that they can, read it the same way that our English speaking students can. I'm going to go back out by pressing this logo back out to the home page. And I showed you last week my favorite menu if you are looking for these supplemental type resources to assign. I really like this explore menu at the top because it's going to take you to a landing page where you can view all of our simulations at once. You can view all of our Plix at once. You can view just the adaptive practice. So if for some reason, you don't want to dive into one of these books, which we're going to suggest that you do, and we're going to show you how to customize them to meet your needs. But if you are just wanting to, use one of our simulations with your students, you can choose that from the Explore menu, and you can filter, you can search. And then again, these all have links that you can use, or they have an assign to class option here as well. So whatever your needs are. Again, it's all free. So at a minimum, hopefully you're going to see something today that you can immediately start using with your learners. That's really exciting. Or maybe you're wanting to get more involved in the idea of taking one of our flex books and customizing it for your needs, for your learners, and hopefully sharing it with other people.
Can you, from this page, the adult education page, scroll down to where it says, are you a student or are you a teacher? And can you kind of give us a demo of how it would look when a teacher were to create an account and how it would look when a student would create an account?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference, to be honest with you. Here's where you get some information about the intelligence that we offer educators, the intelligence that we offer students. But let me actually show you this from the homepage. Our resources are meant for independent learners or for classrooms, districts, ministries of education, whoever could benefit from them. So if you identify yourself as a teacher, you're going to see this view with ck12.org/teacher. And you're going to see things like, what do you want to teach today? And our page is kind of customized for the things that we think teachers are looking for. Like you might want to see schools and districts near you who have created flex books. You might want to watch this video on why district leaders choose CK-12. But if you are a student, you're going to sign in as a student, and they just have a slightly different view. Like they have access to basically all the same resources that the teachers do, other than a few answer keys that are protected for the teacher only, but they're just being served up the resources in a different way. They get these cards where they're searching for subjects, and they don't get things like, the schools, and we try to front load with things that the students are more interested in.
Can you show us, maybe just go back a few steps and go back to how a student signs up? I think the teachers want to see that.
Sure. That question depends on if you are using a learning management system. If you are making an assignment to your students, you have a choice with how you assign that. If you are somebody who's using Google Classroom and you already have classes set up in Google Classroom, awesome. You're going to click on this Google Classroom button and it's going to sync with CK-12, and you're going to be in business making assignments in your usual classes through Google Classroom. If you are a Canvas or Schoology user, I just saw somebody type in that they're a Canvas user. you are going to use us as an integration within Canvas or within Schoology. And if your school or district has not already integrated with CK-12, it's a really easy request as far as getting a secret and a key to make sure that we are installed across your Canvas. So whoever is the technology person for your school or district is going to need to install CK-12 as part of Canvas. Again, totally free. There's just a step to do that. And then you would view CK-12 as one of those additional learning tools that you would go into and you would do the assignments. That's the same as with Schoology. If you're here and you're like, I don't use Google Classroom or Canvas or Schoology, we have CK-12 classes that you're able to use. So for these, you're not setting up any, for Canvas, Schoology, and Google Classroom, you're not setting up anything for students. You're going to create assignments on those platforms, and CK-12 is going to understand that the students are there, and it's going to like create accounts on their behalf for them, if that makes sense. If you are using a CK-12 class, meaning you don't have those other three, then you're going to be using our classes module here on CK-12, and you can set up different classes. This is a class we used with some interns over the winter. But you have options for how those students join your class, and you can invite them by email. You can give them a code to join the class, but there's ways to get them in where they only need to come in once. Okay, so that's probably a long-winded answer for Google, Schoology, Canvas. It's just going to happen automatically. Students do not have to create a separate account on CK-12. It's going to integrate as soon as they click on an assignment you made. If you are using a CK-12 class, we give you multiple options of how to get students in that class, and then they will forever be in your class here that you can view the reports and do assignments through CK-12.
So I guess a side question to that, in Texas, not all programs have a program-wide learning management program. Right. Sometimes it's just one or two teachers are using Google Classroom, like Tiffany, Valerie's using Canvas. It may not be program-wide. So right. How does that work as far as they can just contact CK-12 and have it integrate with just their class?
Google Classroom does not require any formal integration because Google Classroom is a free resource that everybody can use. So if you're going through Google Classroom, you truly just press this button and you're going to say connect to Google Classroom, and it's going to log in through your personal credentials for your Google Classroom, and it's going to sync with the classes that you have there. So there's no extra steps other than just trying an assignment and connecting it to Google Classroom. Since Canvas and Schoology are, most schools and districts are subscribing to those learning management systems, they're just a little more involved where a point person from that school or district who kind of controls those Canvas and Schoology accounts is going to have to connect to CK-12. But again, if none of that applies to you, you go in through a CK-12 class, and we've got lots of resources showing you how to set up a class, how to add students, how to view progress. And that's a completely free, again, way to set up some classes, add students, and then you just select your classes and set a start and due date and start assigning through there.
And Lindsay, I was going to say, when I was in the classroom, I did not use an LMS either. I didn't have access to an LMS. So I used this on the CK-12 site. So just the way Lindsay has it right now. So I built my classes on CK12.org and I assigned them this way. I uploaded my class roster and they had accounts. My students were able to log into their CK12 account and complete their assignments there. So yes, you can use it on an LMS or on the CK12 site. And you're going to hear from Debbie Jensen, our adult educator. Debbie.
Thanks. My experience with CK-12 was just as a teacher. I did become a certified instructor, but I was a teacher with it first and using it. So I just wanted to just show you how easy this is. Okay, so I wanted an ABE math lesson. I wanted a textbook. And so that's where I started. And you can search in a variety of places. You can search with your subjects. You can search with Explore. You can search here in the search box. but I wanted to add another one because sometimes this one worked best for me. And this is to use Google. If you, on the Google search line, you write the topic you want, and then you put a colon, and then you put CK-12, they search CK-12 and find the lessons. And that's kind of my little hint for you because it works. All right, next slide. If you choose a flex book, and here I've chosen CK-12 Algebra Basics for High School Equivalency, what you're going to see is the things that you can do. If you click on that green choose button that's kind of in the center, down the little arrow to the side, gives you the choices to assign that, to add it to your library, to customize it, to add it to a Flexbook 2.0, share it with the class, or even download it as a PDF. Now, adding it to your library is making it so that you don't have to go searching for it again. It's then in your library, and you can then go to your library, find it, work on it, and it houses there. And so that's very helpful. You want to put things in your library. And then the customize, that's where you're going to start making changes. Now I'm going to show you the ones that I did. So on the next slide, we'll see the things that you can do. You can change the name. Let's say I don't want Algebra Basics for High School Equivalency. I want to call it Debbie's Math Class. That's fine. You can name it anything you want. You can change the cover picture. You can edit or delete lessons. You can rearrange lessons. Maybe the sequence isn't right for you. This is especially true in math. If I don't think that sequence and I want to teach something else first, you move it. And you can add your own lessons as well. Next slide. Now, at the very, very least, I'd suggest to change the name of the class and put a picture in on your cover. Maybe it's a picture of your school. This is a picture from BPACE. And so this made it just very comfortable for the students. They knew what it was. Always be sure to click on the save button when you're done. Next slide. Now, here's a navigation tip. It's a second tip that I learned late in the process. When I was working on my flex books, I would go back to the beginning. I would use the back buttons, and it was a long process for moving around. Lindsay just showed me this next one. If you go up to your profile and you select right there, you've got a shortcut, which will take you to the dashboard, take you to your My Classes or My Library, all of it right there. So use the shortcut. You'll be happy. It makes it easier when you're working on it. Next slide. Now, I was using Google Classroom, and it was slick as it possibly could be. I could just click on the Google Classroom and move it right into it. And I'll show you how that worked. But what it does is if you use the LMS, they have grade passback. So all the grades, everything, every score that the student makes on the lesson is moved right into your LMS. So you don't have to check two places. If you are using an LMS, this is very slick. But if you're not, it's all there at CK-12 for you. They also give you all the insights and the full reports. Next slide. Create a class. If you do not have an LMS, and Lindsay went through this of how it is easy to do this, to create your class, and that stores the text. CK-12 links to it, and it assists with all the record keeping and the evaluating and student progress. Or, which I did, next slide, is I use, on the next slide, you'll see that I used Google Classroom. And what the student sees, this is my classroom, ABE Math, and on the right, you will see circled the assignment. And you can see the CK logo. So you can see, oh yes, they did get the lesson. All right, it's there. And on the next slide, you'll see what the teacher sees. In the grade book, they see the score. Very, very nice. Makes it so nice when we're trying to deal with all the lessons and all the grading. Next slide. Now, I wanted to share a couple things that I truly, truly love. That was how easy it was to take a CK-12 textbook. I didn't change anything except the title and the picture. That's all I did. And I attached it to my LMS. Ta-da, I'm done. But there's some other really cool features I wanted to share. This was a slide we showed last week. And this was done by one of our Washington State high school equivalency teachers. And she added this to her Flexbook. A lot of times our adults are confused when they see something online. Now, Lindsay showed you all sorts of really cool stuff. And I continue to learn every single time Lindsay shows me. I go, I didn't know it would do that. Well, that's our adults. They don't know. And so this teacher created a series of videos to tell the students about these things. She includes an introduction, learning through reading, how to highlight and take notes, how to change the language, how to use Applix or Interactive, and how to use online practice. Now you might think, oh, but I don't have any time to create those videos. The wonder of OERs and the wonder of CK-12 is we can stop recreating what somebody else did. We can use and broaden and expand. And so you can use these videos that she made. You can use the lessons that others have done. And we're hoping that when you saw what was available for adult ed, you might think, well, that's not very much. It isn't. It's a beginning. We are hoping that you will create lessons and that we can share lessons so that we can stop recreating what everybody else has done and we can start expanding and building our world for adult ed. Next slide. Now, this one was something, Lindsay always teaches me something new. This is a new feature. And okay, at one, you see Flexi. I love Flexi. Flexi's the coolest because he works with the student. He's like their partner and their tutor. Up at number 2, you see the lightning bolt. And what this is going to the insights. Now, the problem with the insights was you can't see them if you don't have a class. And so if I've not created a class yet, I don't know what it's going to look like. So CK-12 developed a demo class so that we can use this to see what is available for us. So if you click the next slide, you'll see the insights that are here. Okay, so there's an overview of the class. You can see it with the points and the plot graph. You can see the amount of engagement, how many students have taken it, how many have done it, how many have turned it in, what their skill level is. You can see their performance from low to high, the ones that haven't turned it in yet, and the insights and recommendations that CK-12 makes. Next slide. This is so cool. You can find out how well your students are doing, but sometimes you don't have a clue what to do about it. It's just like, whoa, I'm not sure what I should try. CK-12 helps you with that. So here we see only 3 out of the 9 students who turned in this assignment have reached the adaptive practice goal of answering 10 questions correctly. Our recommendation is that you remind the students to complete the goal of answering 10 questions. Okay, and it shows you which ones have reached their goals. On the next one, you see the top 4 questions students answered incorrectly are noted. You know which ones they didn't do, and there's recommendations for where you should send them for it. What with those that are struggling? And then you have a smiley face. I love that they use the smiley faces. These 3 students are doing exceptional on this concept. You may assign them the next concept to keep these students challenged. Now, isn't that just amazing? So not only the ones that are struggling, but what you can do to help encourage the students who may be struggling as well. Or the ones that are doing extremely well, they don't have any problems. Well, we don't want to lose them. We don't want them to get bored. So what can I do next? And so they will show you in that. So this is really the cool part. Now I'm going to turn it back to Lindsay. Next slide. And she's going to show you what I just showed you. She's going to show you how to customize a lesson.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so full load here for the next 10 or 12 minutes. And again, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but know that there's so many support resources available on CK-12. We have all kinds of tutorial videos, help desk articles. So kind of watch the process and then know that when you're ready to do this yourself, there's a lot of help there available to you. But for customization, what we're suggesting is find a book on the site that is most closely related to what you're going to be teaching. I'm going to use this interactive mathematics for adult basic education book just to show you the customization process. And so you have options here on the choose button. I can go ahead and add it to my library, which is where I'm going to kind of, bookmark things and store anything that I've created. Notice that I can download it if I need to. I can share it with my classes. But what I want to show you is this idea of customization. So when I press customize on this CK-12 OTAN book, what the system is doing is it's basically making a copy of that book in my personal library. So at this point, this is my book, and I can call it whatever I want. So we're going to call it Lindsay's, let's see if I can spell it, Lindsay's Adult Basic Education. Okay. I can change the cover. I just changed the title. And then what's, amazing here is that you can expand any of these chapters to see the lessons that are in the chapter. And notice all of your options over here to toggle, to remove, to delete, to edit. You can get rid of things in your book that you know you're not going to be teaching your students. So let's say I'm never going to get to the statistics portion of my book. I can press this remove button and it's just removed like that. Okay. If I teach equations before expressions, I can use the handles here to just rearrange these lessons. And I can do that at a chapter level here. Notice it's just renumbering as I'm doing this. We're not going to get to division with fractions, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. Or you can do it within an individual chapter. So if I want to teach comparing ratios with tables after pictures of ratios, notice how I'm just rearranging sections. Okay. So one of the first suggestions is find a book that works for you, and then at least kind of customize the scope and sequence to match what you're going to be teaching. And it doesn't have to stop there. You can add in your own chapters. So let's say I want to kick the whole thing off with like Lindsay's syllabus. And I'm going to, have a chapter that I'm going to start with that's going to contain what we call a read or a lesson. And I'm going to call this, syllabus 2021, 2022. And so you can see that I am starting to create my own content, and I can come in here and I can edit, and I'll be taken to an editor where I start creating that content, or I can be copying and pasting from some of the other resources that I have outside of the CK-12 Flexbook land. Okay, we're also set up to do a lot of combining of books, and that's, I think, really important for a lot of your situations to start with one of our books, but you can also search from the CK-12 library for other concepts, and you can add in lessons from other books. Or as you're finding lessons that you like from other books, there's an add to Flexbook option where you can add it to this book here. This is at the book level. So I'm going to go ahead and just save these basic changes that I made to the book. And it's going to show you what my book now looks like, where I've got this, opening chapter that I created. And this would be an empty lesson because I didn't create any content in there. But let's go in and let's look at a lesson, and let me show you how you can customize that as well. So say I want to use pictures of ratios with my adult learners, and I want to change some of the text, and I want to add in, my own images or videos. I talked to you earlier about this toolbar here. Under the toolbar, you've got these action items, and one of them is to customize, which I'm confusing the system because I'm actively editing this book. So you wouldn't get that message. Ignore that message. It's going to fix it all up here. Let me go back into a ratios lesson. Pictures of ratio. And I can delete the text that I don't like. I can, common things in adult education are to swap out, names of students for names of examples for names that are in your class. Perhaps you want to add some additional study questions at the bottom. You want to add some additional links. You can link to anything you want, like check out this link. And you can, include whatever website there that you'd like. You can include a video of you maybe doing a lecture, an example. If you have a flipped classroom situation, you can embed anything with an embed code. So that's commonly YouTube. That's also things like Google slide presentations. All that can be embedded right here in your book. You can add images, and you can see all of the, tools you have access to that are just standard formatting, tables, things like that. These big yellow boxes, you saw that in the math lesson, we had all kinds of interactive components. When you're in draft mode, this yellow box just means that it's an interactive. And so you either really need to delete it or to deal with the interactive in a different editing mode. So I'm going to go ahead and just finalize this draft. And even when I finalize it, know that nothing on CK-12 is ever final, okay? I can go in and I can continue to edit this lesson at any time that I want. You can see that I deleted that introductory material, and then there's going to be something weird at the bottom where I said, check out this link blank. I can go in at any time to my toolbar, and I can continue to edit the lesson, and then if I need to download it offline, I lose the interactivity, but I can also download a PDF. And then when I've got the lesson the way that I want it, again, we already talked about assigning. I can assign to class and go one of these options here. So different levels of how people use our site. You may just want to grab one of our books. You're like, hey, I'm teaching pre-algebra, and I think this book, kind of covers what I want it to. Just grab the link and start using it with your learners and see what they think. See if it works for them. If you want to, at a minimum, just arrange the scope and sequence, then you're going to press customize. And again, you can change the title, change the cover, but I can add things to this book or remove things from this book. So I would at least suggest, arranging the scope and sequence in an order that makes sense to your situation. And then if you want to further customize, you can go in and you can, edit any of these lessons that you want for images, for videos, for content, and further customize them that way.
So that gives us a really good overview. I'm going to actually ask Anne Marie. She has a question for you, so she can unmute.
Okay.
And share that with us.
Thank you so much, Netta. This came to me privately, and I think this is an excellent question, and I know the teachers will want to know the answer to this. You mentioned something very intriguing a while ago, and that is when you're in a Flexbook, you've got these links up here that you can Google. Want to know, a lot of teachers have to submit lesson plans. So if they don't want to use an entire Flexbook, they could put a link to an actual assignment inside the Flexbook to add it to their lesson plan.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was a question that came to me. Is it as easy as taking that link for a particular assignment and being able to drop it into your lesson plan as a way to add to your lesson plan? That was the question.
As I'm scrolling through this book, they all have these unique URL up here. So it says that we're on lesson 2.9. So again, if you're not looking for any sort of like grade communication back to your grade book, which would tell you how the students did out of 10 on this adaptive practice, like if you're just trying to show the administrators about like, hey, here's my lesson for today, or you're emailing it out to somebody and saying, this is the lesson that I'm doing, you just grab this URL and they're going to land on this book. No problem. And that's if you've customized the book, or if you haven't, anybody who has that URL would be able to access your assignment. And so you might want to, play around a little bit with these actions of the difference between assigning or just sharing means, you're just giving them the link. But you've got different ideas on how to, let the world know what's available with these books and these lessons.
Right. Somebody asked a really good question, and I'm going to, I think, Debbie, if you don't mind answering this, and I can as well. Are you, or were you, assigning work for independent practice, or are you doing assignments during direct instruction and scaffolding assignments for students via computers or small groups?
When I was using this, I got late to the game. And so I did not get to put it into full class. I was doing it individually as students were struggling and needed help with stuff. And that's how I was addressing it. But I was preparing for it to become full class. Then COVID hit, and then I retired. And so I have the class, but I wasn't able to execute it. So I did it with the one-on-one, where it was very, very useful.
And then I was going to say I did more of an independent practice. So I did more of assigning homework just to kind of supplement. Like I said, in my equivalency classes, it was very much, additional supplemental material that I knew can enhance their knowledge and skill in science or social studies. And so that was my focus, is to give them additional support there. And I think what Lindsay is showing us right now is, as a student, how Flexi can help. Is that correct?
Yeah, and this is just a quick example. Again, you're able to expand Flexi and then to ask questions. It's smarter if you're asking things that are on the lesson that you're on, but it can also answer general questions. Of we get to see what students are typing in, and they're asking everything from like, why do giraffes have spots, to things that are more like applied to their adaptive practice or what they're looking at on the page. So I would just encourage you to have your students start a conversation with Flexi. It kind of helps with that isolated learning as well. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you, because I know we're about out of time here, is Debbie talked to you about insights, and that's this flashing bolt here. So if you have assigned this through CK-12, Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, you would be selecting a class here, and you would be able to see how your class did on this assignment. This is just a demo class that gives you an idea, but we do put on the scatter plot what the skill level is and what the engagement level is, and you get those recommendations we were talking about. But you can also go into individual students and see exactly what they did on this lesson. Okay, so we can see that Christine here, she spent 9 seconds on this lesson. She did the practice and was just at the beginning level, and her engagement was super low. She only did 1%, because again, she only did 9 seconds on this. But there's a histogram to the left that shows you where the student spent the time on the page. And that's really helpful when there's like a video embedded or a Plex to show you if they did that. And that engagement score is going to bump up as much as they interact with these videos. So our intelligent insights are going to be able to tell you so much more than just did the student do it or not? But again, first step is find a resource that's going to work for you, start exploring, and then you're going to get in touch with us and let us know how we can help for sure.
So Lindsay, we have a few questions about, support and, during this process. I shared partners at CK-12.org.
Yes.
And I'm hoping you can kind of put a couple of links for some training assistance and other videos that CK-12 offers, and maybe the certified educator, if you want to show us that.
Sure
page.
thing. Again, pressing this icon going out to the home screen. I like this explore option where you can dive into any of these resources. And then we also have some, kind of helpful information over here. Our webinars have been great. We're kind of slowing down this time of year with the ones that we're doing live. So you're just going to get this more coming soon. But we have a bit of a treasure trove of archived webinars that tell you a little bit about everything of CK-12. So for those of you who are asking about learning management systems, we have recordings here to help you navigate those. If you're interested in customizing the books, if you're just getting started, if you want some strategies, you want to hear some of our students talk about CK-12, and then even these quick overviews in the bottom. I love these. We've got a whole YouTube channel. These are like 1 to 2 minutes, just really quick of like, here's how you do something. So if you need to know how to assign Flexbook lessons in 1 minute and 48, we're going to show you how to do it with screencasts. So I like the webinars page for that kind of information. Or again, there's a help option at the top of all of the lessons and all of the pages where you can come in here and you can say, hey, you mentioned quizzes, but you didn't show me how to do it. How can I create a quiz? And just search for it in our help center. And then here's how to create a quiz. And it will talk you through step by step. And then when you need help from a human being, you email partners@ck12.org. And that's an email that I check. And I would love to talk to you about whatever your situation is, whatever you need from me to help you be confident with CK-12.
The support from CK-12 has been phenomenal and outstanding. And so definitely take her up on that offer, because they definitely deliver. So moving forward with your efforts, I feel confident that you'll find find yourself supported by CK-12, and they're listening to us. They're listening to adult educators everywhere, so we appreciate that very, very much. And we appreciate you for attending the session today. Thank you so much for being here. We're learning more about CK-12.